Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Deadfire with me, Bring It Down. Let's check out Periki's metalwork.
I say, you look like someone who wants protection and a certain something about presence. Akira?
The Huana woman scans you up and down, nodding as she measures your proportions.
Holler if any of the iron or steel laying around catches your fancy. Or if you need something repaired, I'm happy to take a glance.
I forgot I had these shards. Periki's Overlook is an interesting place for an armorer.
Akira, they wouldn't put a traditional smith here unless she brought something special.
She sighs and glances toward her tools.
My clients wanted everything engraved and beautiful. Wasn't why I got into the business, but it keeps my debtors happy. I keep it interesting working with exotic materials like shark leather, since there's some demand and little supply.
She shrugs, running her hand across a length of hide. Show her the shards of the Blade of Endless Paths and the Whispers of Yenwood. Can you do anything with these?
Akira, but these wonders have suffered greatly. I say you must take better care of your things.
She sets down the shards and frowns at you. I know, believe me. So what do you think?
I say I could repair these to their working order for 1,500 pyres each.
She thumbs her chin and considers.
Something about the metal, it yearns to bond as one. I could join all these pieces into a greatsword for 3,000 pyres.
She lifts her gaze to meet yours, the excitement of a challenge in her eyes.
If you need iron or steel, maybe even something lighter, I've got plenty in stock.
She smiles and tips her head toward her wares. That's interesting. So the Whispers of Yenwood was a sword. The Blade of the Endless Paths was an estoc. We can combine them to create a greatsword. That's probably the option I'm going to go for. But let's see what she has for sale first. Show me what you have for sale. Queen's Rule. Greatsword. Exceptional. Grants capture. Exert your supremacy to switch positions with a single enemy. If you're a higher level than your foe, you'll make a full attack on them in the process. See, most of the enemies we face are higher levels than us, so we won't get the full effect of this. This elegant greatsword is of Adirian manufacture. Emissaries from the Adir Empire presented it, along with 7 similar weapons, to the first Duke of the Free Palatinate of Deerwood, upon the conclusion of the War of Defiance. Intended as a gesture of peace, such a gift also signified de facto recognition of the Free Palatinate. The Duke, pleased by acknowledgement of his rule, accepted. As a gesture of solidarity with those who fought for Deerwooden independence, the Duke distributed 6 of the weapons to his earls. The 2 Cavalier blades went to Hell's Gate and Coldwater. The Grasp and Norwijk received the Tower Hammers. The Ashfall and Tenfirths went the Abbot Staves. The 2 remaining greatswords, Queen's Rule and King's Wrath, the Duke ordered smelted down. In his words, the Free Palatinate no longer had any use for royalty. It seems this weapon was saved from the fire, though it has had a long fall from grace. Alright, Spearcaster is an Arbalist. Superb. Forceful Impact. 50% chance to knock back and daze target on scoring hit. Not even a critical. And Rune Bolts. Plus 5 ranged accuracy. Increases with Arcana skill. The product of a wizard who considered himself an engineer, this Arbalist has been modified to fire larger, thicker bolts. This provided no shortage of obstacles in its initial construction. The wizard found he needed to strengthen the bow lathes to accommodate the oversized bolts. Thus, a heavier string was required. As a result, the retaining nut had to be reinforced. Even a customized enchanted windlass was needed to span the blasted thing. The stock itself was initially too weak for the whole operation, and the wizard, ever a pragmatist, found structural enchantments were required to keep the weapon from snapping in two once armed. Runes etched into the massive, spear-like bolts helped them fly true, and gave them the punch to puncture steel and flesh. However, the wizard found it took considerable expenditures of his own arcane powers to make them do so. In the end, the weapon, while powerful, seemed only of use to those with sufficient knowledge of arcana. As such, the wizard abandoned his plans to produce similar weapons en masse, and kept this prototype for his personal use. A Lover's Embrace. The dagger. Exceptional, and True Love's Kiss. Stealth attacks cause a target to bleed for raw damage until combat ends. Juliana du Akenzi adored her lover Bruno, who was as clever as he was duplicitous. As Bruno's mounting debts grew beyond his ability to talk his way around them, his lenders came to believe he would better serve as an example to other potential debtors. Bruno was murdered in his bed. As a warning, his killers left the weapon that did the deed behind. This weapon. Armed only with the dripping blade and her broken heart, Juliana would go on to hunt down the killers and avenge her lover. Juliana's profitable new life as a bounty hunter became the stuff of legends. Oh, that's really pricey. I was thinking about buying Spearcaster for Jody. Trotilo's Palm. It's a brawling, counts as offhand weapon, inward spikes. 10% chance of receiving melee weapon damage to gain 1 wound. Trotilo was a struggling metallurgist who supplemented his meager income by fighting in high-stakes boxing matches. Okay. Boxing proved to be the more lucrative venture. He eventually abandoned his forge to devote the entirety of his time to training and fighting. He proved to be quite skilled and quickly rose to prominence in the boxing circuit. He became so confident in his strength that he claimed his hands were strong enough to stop the blade of a sword. He even challenged the renowned duelist Ree Golan to a bout to prove his claim. During the fight, before a cheering crowd, Trotilo lost his left hand to her saber. A hard lesson learned. Trotilo returned to his forge. Unwilling to admit his time as a master fighter had ended, he forged this impressive shield as a replacement for his missing hand. This new hand could not hold a hammer, but it could strike and parry, and that was good enough for him. Well, since we don't have enough for Spearcaster yet, I don't think she has the... Check something real quick. So I know she has the crossbow proficiency. Oh, she does have Arbalest. So once we have enough money...
If you need iron or steel...
I do think this will be a worthwhile purchase for her. And it's all on hit. It doesn't require a critical hit. That's really cool. So you can potentially knock them back and immobilize them. All with just a hit. What does Skira do? Fire a spear-like bolt through multiple targets, inflicting pierce damage, knocking them back and immobilizing them in place. We only get 2 uses per rest, where this is a 1 in 5 chance of happening. That's a really cool Arbalest.
If you need iron or steel, maybe even something lighter, I've got plenty in stock.
But since we can't afford it, let's go ahead and combine the Whispers of Yenwood and the Blade of the Endless Paths into this greatsword. So give 3,000 copper, combine the shards and craft the greatsword.
Ikera, when you swing this beauty, you must make sure to tell your foes that Mahiri sent you.
I'm sorry, did she say her name was Mahiri? I think she got the R and the H mixed up. But who am I to judge how her name is pronounced? It's her name, it's not mine. She gathers up armloads of shards and gestures for you to wait.
Whispers of the Endless Paths. A most brooding and gloomful weapon, I say.
She passes you the greatsword with a proud sigh.
May it chop your enemies into fine pieces for the delight of Tongaloa.
This is some fine work.
I'm honored to have the trust of such a fine customer. Do not hesitate to bring me another challenge. Akira?
She inclines her head and touches her brow.
If you need iron or steel, maybe...
Alright, Whispers of the Endless Paths. It's a great sword, of course. Exceptional. Increased reach. Now that is interesting. Because the next companion that we're going to add to our party that will replace Seraphim was going to use a reach weapon. Now I was leaning towards pikes, but this may change that. So two-hander, attacks in a cone plus 1 penetration. Heavy blade plus 15% damage as crush. You crafted this colossal blade from the fragments of the Whispers of Yenwood and the Blade of the Endless Path. The weapon's reach is unmatched by any other greatsword, and the flanges along the blade provide for a measure of defense from lesser weapons. Also, they've called it the Blade of the Endless Path in a variety of ways. When we spoke to her about it, it was just called the Blade of Endless Paths. Here it's singular path. It's also not capitalized. And then one of the other dialogue options was the proper capitalization of the Blade of the Endless Paths. I was tempted to give this to my main character and give him greatsword proficiency later on. But since it's a reach weapon, I think that settles my dispute before I even have it. An armorer's trick is soften the abrasiveness of these dried shark skins. Also, while she's back here.
Nice and quiet. Subtle indeed. It is done.
I missed my chance. She might still wander back there.
Yeah?
Captain? Aye. A light's and an heavy bullet, aye, Cap?
What now?
Armor invoice. Most of this document is drafted in a careful official hand. Another author appears to have made several hasty additions. To our valued customer, on behalf of the dedicated staff of the Consignment and Salvage Clearinghouse, we thank you for expressing interest in the purchase of one mail vest, Enchantments Unknown, previous owner Magnera Free Trader. Unfortunately, our licensed dealer, Remo Caldera Salvage Marker 56221, informed us item unavailable, delivery to be carried out by Captain Henqua, but shipment interdicted by pirate hunters, vessel sunk. This is most regrettable. Enclosed is your original payment of Valian Trade Bullion, amount undisclosed, minus 10% finder's fee. We certainly hope you will consider future business with us, despite this setback. Sincerest regards, Rowan Gyakin, Shipping Quartermaster, CASC. Yellow notes, if any. Not certain if Vest went down with Henqua. We'll make further inquiries. Only there's a way for us to gain access to this one. Our skill's too low to break into it anyway, so we'll hold off on that.
Sure.
But we won't forget about it. I'm really excited about that greatsword. The increased reach is very exciting. The Luminous Bathhouse. I will come back here for that.
Postenago. You have truly put your foot in it this time.
Alright, tell me what's going on.
Entry. You go to visit the Luminous Bathhouse, yes?
Perhaps. Why do you ask?
My satchel. Like a fool, I left it inside. My ship is due to sail from Nekataka with the next high tide. If I do not find it, my Casita will surely throw me overboard. Merla, I cannot swim.
A look of horror spreads across his face.
I would go by myself, but the guards, they bar the doors to me without my Casita present. They think I am a thief.
He stares at his feet, his hands an anxious, twisting knot in front of him. Well, why can't you ask your Casita to retrieve it then?
I would rather her not discover my incompetence.
His eyes dart to the side, as if looking for something, or someone, just outside his vision. An understandable concern. He bites his lower lip, uncertain whether or not to take your words at face value. Are you a thief?
No, of course not.
His eyes widen in fright, and he waves his hands frantically before you in a warning gesture. I'll let you know if I see it.
Gelade, you mean it? Agrasima, I am in your debt.
The air of misery suffusing him lifts for a moment. His eyes go wide, and he grins. You notice a light sheen of sweat on his upper lip. He shifts his weight from foot to foot, and stares at you intently.
There is, one thing. Madiko, how could I have forgotten?
He tugs the collar of his shirt, as if he's suddenly much too hot.
If you could, do not open the satchel. The contents are... The information is...
He searches for the word.
proprietary. You understand?
You request a favor, and attempt to dictate the terms of its fulfillment.
No, I would not dare. You do me a great service, Aimiko.
He waves his hands frantically.
I am not so good at Idiran, yes? Forgive my clumsy words.
He clasps his hands in his. Sorry, your hands in his. I say his hands in his? Sorry.
Please, when you find the satchel, meet me at Peddler's Canal in Queensberth.
Okay.
On it.
Rasper? Alright, what do you do, buddy? While Rasper is following you around, enemy attacks against you are more likely to graze, and your party is more effective with healing spells and potions. Alright, Yofer's Raiments.
I've got it.
Patterns both local and foreign adorn these bolts of fine cloth.
More than my eyes be open.
If you find yourself in need of comfortable garb, I'm happy to oblige.
The dwarf tips his head in a curt, professional manner. You're a tailor.
I've been known to rip a seam here and there, patch some shredded gear back into shape.
His expression shifts, turning sour.
Thought I was an armorer, did you? Assumed that my tree stump limbs and barrel chest lend themselves better to the forge than the needle?
Why would I grab him by his collar? Say nothing.
If it's armor you're after, Marihi will set you up. She's got a knack for metal.
He points out the door and jerks his head to the east. Show me what you have for sale. Mantle of the 7 Bolts. The grounded plus 2 shock armor rating. Storm of 7 bolts grants Storm of 7 bolts. Unleashes 7 powerful arcs of lightning which bounce off walls, harming anyone in their path. Down safe. And Final Storm, shock damage AoE when knocked out. This cape is interwoven with copper thread, and was created by an eccentric wizard to provide protection from electricity. The wizard's initial experiments were promising. The garment seemed to absorb and redirect the effects of the wizard's most potent lightning spells. After countless self-administered shocks, he was left no worse for wear, save for a few burns and a persistent nervous twitch that intensified with his proximity to metal objects. Ever a perfectionist, the enchanter was unsatisfied with his limited data. Simple spells were insufficient. He needed to pit the cape against the fury of a proper storm. When such a storm arrived, the wizard donned the cape and climbed to the spire atop his laboratory and called the lightning to himself. 7 lightning bolts struck the wizard simultaneously, throwing him from the spire to his sand garden below. There was a brilliant flash upon impact that turned the sand to glass and set his arboretum aflame. Broken and concussed, but very much alive, the enchanter praised his experiment as a resounding success. My burglar's gloves, +1 to dexterity, +2 to mechanics, and +2 to athletics. These unassuming gloves are proof that form follows function. They're made from supple fawn leather, allowing for easy movement of the wrist and fingers. Nondescript wristbands offer convenient, discreet storage for picks, tension bars, and other tools of the saboteur's trade. Rawhide on the palms provides protection when gripping or climbing. A little pricey, but I think that's worth it. More health regen. So 3 trolls stitched. This trio of hides still carries the unmistakable stink of trolls. Fluid oozes from the patches of fungus adorning the fibers of the garment, and mossy particulates slough off the surface with a touch. Or slow. The cape retains some of the troll's regenerative properties. However, much like the trolls, it is highly flammable and vulnerable to corrosive materials. I'm not sure what cloak Adair has equipped.
Huh?
See anything of...
Well, it might be worth picking up. Angadi's Girdle. +1 athletics, 10% chance to cast interrupting crush damage AoE when critically hit in melee, and +1 crush armor rating. This fine sharkskin belt is thought to have been in the possession of the widowed elf noble Devka Kilween, when she took her own life by throwing herself from a coastal watchtower into the crashing sea below. Some years later, the girdle washed ashore near Juana village in the Deadfire, where a wandering shorewalker discovered it. The sawn tide had not marred it in the slightest. The inner lining still bore the embroidered message to Devka from her late husband. May our souls always find one another, it read. The shorewalker, wary of the implications of such an artifact, opted to sell it rather than tempt the ire of Ngati, who had surely kept a weather eye on such a symbol of love, loss, and the sea. It's a pretty good belt. Tempted to give it to my main character, though I think the guaranteed +2 to Constitution is better than a 10% chance to interrupt in an AoE. But this is definitely worth buying. We'll give that to Aloth. Because he doesn't need this. He still gets his dexterity out of it. But the +2 might, I think, is better for the bigger heals, so we're not going to swap that out. Let's hold on to that for now.
This changes nothing between us.
I'll see what I can do. The work of a moment.
Oh, cool. He's just going to leave it unattended.
I shall be discreet.
Oh, come on. He's around the corner. Alright, what's in there? Oh, the girdle. Okay, so there is a mechanic I forgot about. We do have These guys.
Aye, aye.
See what I can do with them.
A light's foot and an heavy bullet, aye, Cap.
Maybe we can use these to distract this guy.
How may I help?
What now?
So we could have used that previously when we stole Magrin's blessing.
Dim in the lantern.
But I forgot that we had those.
All right.
Alright, so I guess next we will go to... Let's go just finish mapping out the streets, and then we'll go to the Luminous Bathhouse next time. It does seem like there's a couple things
Did the
happening
queen
there.
summon everyone to the palace?
Akira, I've never seen Aruihi run so fast.
Do you think the Audra Colossus would come here next?
Pray to Cahopa, it does not.
Water flowing through this timepiece keeps its mechanism in constant motion.
No can do.
Will do.
Jules? That's a great cat name. While Jules is following you around, you get a bonus to perception, and party members are more effective with healing spells and potions.
The sea is true home, not smelly mountain.
On it.
An engraving at the base of the statue reads, Periki, first guild master of the Water Shapers Guild. He looks downcast and introspective. Alright, worthless idiot.
What you want?
The Emperor coils from you with a sharp hiss. What are you doing out here?
Archimere doesn't let worthless idiot outside after worthless idiot sprayed dung on stupid tablet. But Archimere not home.
A mischievous grin splits the imp's bony features.
So worthless idiot watches the ships come in, looks at all the tasty gulls.
It sighs down at the vista of ocean and docks. Your name is Worthless Idiot.
Those Archimere's big words. Gave name, but worthless idiot no understand.
Worthless Idiot wriggles a finger in its ear. Back to my other questions.
You noisy for ground meat.
You want to set sail and eat gulls? You're welcome aboard the Defiant. The imp takes in your words, its eyes widening to the size of moist saucers. A flap of its wings carries it closer to whisper in your ear.
How often you beat your crew, huh?
It doesn't whisper at all, and the question sends it ringing through your ears. I don't. Not yet, at least.
No beatings? None?
It blinks, struggling to encompass the idea.
I join crew? I join crew!
The imp flutters in an excited little circle. It points down at the distant shape of Queen's berth, and salivates at the sight of gulls landing on the rigging of the Defiant. Alright, so what does this guy do? Oh, he's a navigator. Alright, works for me. What did he say? You invited that imp on you to your crew. Disgusting. Well, you know what? People don't judge other people on the Defiant.
You had no right to interfere in Rawatai's business.
Huana culture isn't business, you company drudge.
I don't give two pyres for your tribal pride, and I wager that Archimere cares even less.
The Amoa woman clutches her fists at her sides. Her severe features are caught in an unshakable grimace.
If this is what passes for Rautai in diplomacy, Razanui has bigger problems.
The more calm and composed Juana smiles, turning when she notices you.
If you've come to see Archimere, you're too late. He left the estate on wizard business.
Did you say wizard business?
Archimere could be drinking Koiki wine with dead kings. There's no finding him if he doesn't want to be found.
Well, what's going on between you two?
Tamar and I wanted something from Archimere. Our powers of persuasion leave much to be desired.
The wizard got his hands on a Huana tablet, the Harapo epic. I came to reclaim it for Rawatai. In the middle of my negotiations, this little pest showed up with a claim on it.
She gestures to Netehe?
The Harapo epic belongs to the Huana. The Queen sent me to remind you both.
An intact primary source is a rare find for the Huana.
Akira, few outsiders can appreciate what such an artifact could mean to our people.
Posturing about cultural value is worthless. We both want the tablet for the same reason.
Would that be Archmage Archimere? I'm fond of his dazzling lights.
The same. He keeps to himself, inviting no one but Facina behind the walls of his estate.
Interesting. Because she likes us. We just did her a favor.
He and his apprentice run the Dark Cupboard, a local magic shop.
How did Archimere come to possess the tablet?
I believe that he had dealings with black market treasure hunters. Not that the Queen will implicate him.
She's too preoccupied negotiating with the warmongers at her door.
So what's your plan?
I might as well adjourn to the palace in Serpent's Crown and give Archimere time to think.
What a load of... You mean to get your hands on that tablet with or without Archimere? You island rats can barely write your own names, much less a distinguished epic.
Natalia blinks at her in shock, takes a moment to smooth down the creases in her uniform.
Scamper back to the Brass Citadel and spin your own plots. I will happily do the same on my side of the island.
I have questions for Netehe before you go.
For me? I could use a reprieve.
Where's she going? She didn't say she was going to leave too. I was hoping she'd stay here so we could talk to her after. Netehe watches Tamara skulk away, turning back to you only when she's gone, and lets out a heavy sigh.
These are frustrating times we live in. What say?
Netehe opens her palms, inviting you to speak. Any ideas on retrieving the Harapo epic?
There's always Facina, Archimere's apprentice. No love lost there if whispers are true.
Netehe shrugs.
Archimere seems to enrage those of his inner circle, not excluding the imps.
I had questions about the tablet.
Akira, I say the relevance of the Harapo epic can't be overstated. It could prove a touchstone for the Huana. It could even... Sorry, you go ahead.
Why is the tablet so important to you?
It is important to all who call the Deadfire home. I only tell you this because I know you can be trusted. The epic is supposed to contain information on Ukaizo. Nothing as dramatic as a set of coordinates, but anything helps. Stories are also important to the Huana. Much of who we are is still missing.
What could the epic tell you about the Huana?
The story could speak to the values and beliefs of our ancestors. The language structure, narrative voice, and use of metaphor can tell us something about the time of its inscription.
She touches her bottom lip and glances off to the distance.
We could even... I've lost you, haven't I? Akira, I tend to go on.
Did you know about the epic before it fell into Archimere's hands?
Akira, from the Journal of Rakua, an explorer who found the tablet on a remote island some 20 years ago. Unfortunately for Rakua, The most we found of her was her journal among the flotsam of a shipwreck.
Why is the Royal Deadfire Company so interested in the tablet?
They think the tablet can show them.
Itae stops herself, weighing her words with care.
Well, the way to Ukaizo.
She sighs and regards you with unease.
Akira, it's a mythical island, but that isn't stopping any of us from rushing to claim it first.
That's all I wanted to know.
Akira, the pleasure is mine.
Farewell. Where does she wander off to? Will it tell me where she went? Okay, so she's in the Brass Citadel. So she didn't claim in the initial dialogue that she worked for the Royal Deadfire Company. But it looks like this quest is either going to give us favor with the Huana or Nekataka, which we do need, because right now we're at -1, which is why these shops had a plus 10% price increase. Or we can side with the Brass Citadel and the Royal Deadfire Company. It looks like we do have a choice to make ahead of us. But we'll probably pursue this next time. So we know we can access his manor from upstairs in the dark cupboard. But for now, I'm going to call it here. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you guys in the next one.